One of the reasons that we are waiting the Trump's movement was it's related to the USAID. Yes, actually, some of Korean people believe that the USAID has supported AWEB. The AWEB is located in South Korea, yes, and controlled by the CCP, we believe. So if the election fraud is the key issue of the martial law, then the U.S. must be partnered to investigate or react of this problem.
Yeah, this is a whole nother issue, USAID and funding and everything. And yes, USAID has funded organizations for information, and some of them have been influenced by both China and North Korea, and unwittingly. And I think, the ignorance of us as Americans not understanding how some of these organizations are related to China and North Korea. So in some ways, the halt of funding of USAID has an impact on those organizations that might not be working to the best interests of Korea and the United States. But of course, it also damages many other organizations that are doing important work. So that's a complicated situation as well. So, but I understand what you are saying, and I agree. And I hope that the U.S. government would look objectively at how that money has been spent. And frankly, I will tell you a personal frustration. I'm on the board of directors for the Committee for Human Rights in North Korea. Yes. And in our work, we identify human rights in North Korea, which is used by the State Department and the United Nations to identify human rights abuses. Yes. It goes into the periodic review. We have gotten grants in the past from the State Department. We did during the Biden administration. We did during the first Trump administration. We received no money during we received during the Obama administration, the first Trump administration, and no funding during the Biden administration. And no funding so far, of course, from the Trump administration is not funding anybody. But we saw money, like for the National Endowment for Democracy, go to some of these organizations. They never funded us, but they funded foreign organizations, to include those in South Korea, and some with suspicious ties as well. So we think that this money should be investigated and accounted for. And these organizations, if they have connections to China or North Korea, they should not be funded through USAID, through U.S. funding. But I am not sure if that will ever create a reason for President Trump to make a statement about the situation. I just don't think that he is going to engage in that way. And again, it's because he may not think he has to worry about it because of our success of the alliance for 7 decades. It breeds complacency because we haven't had a war, and South Korea has become so strong, and our relationship has always been so strong that it's one of those things where people think it's good. I need to focus on other critical priorities like Ukraine, China, and Europe. Yeah, so Ambassador Yoon, actually, I think that was a brilliant move by President Biden to appoint Ambassador Yoon. Ambassador Yoon, he was previous ambassador to the Philippines. He is, he's an expert, and I think that by putting him there, it has filled a gap. This gap will continue. There has been no nomination for a South Korean ambassador. And when you look at, if you follow all the presidential appointments, probably about 70% of our ambassadorships have not even been nominated yet. And South Korea is one of them. We've heard perhaps former Representative Michelle Steele has been named as, speculated. Ambassador Morris Tan has been speculated as, I don't think, to your point, would quick action appointing an ambassador, would that really shore things up? Perhaps if it's the right person, perhaps, but the way the bureaucracy plays out and the nomination system and the confirmation process, it's going to be some time before we get somebody. Even if President Trump picked somebody today, named it today, we're probably 3 or 4 months from getting somebody confirmed, if that fast. Ambassador Yu there, he was he was the six-party or the North Korean envoy during the first Trump administration. He brought back Otto Warmbier. He knows President Trump. So I think, and President Trump knows him. And so I think that putting him in place, you have a distinguished diplomat in place who is really, yes, he's a placeholder, but he is, having served as an ambassador and held ambassador rank for, it is different than having a charge d'affaires who was, a deputy chief of mission. He has been an ambassador, a real ambassador, and so I think that is a positive sign. And I think President Biden should be credited for putting him in place, because I think in many ways that's a gift to President Trump, and which could go really to what I'm talking about is we don't have as much to worry about because we have a competent diplomat in place there, and yes, let the political process play out. We have a strong alliance. Again, all of this can appear from the United States perspective where we are complacent, and we're kind of taking the alliance for granted, which, is both good and bad. We should never take it for granted, but when we do take it for granted, it's because of the strength. It's because of the respect for the alliance, so it's really a double-edged sword, and when you look at it that way. And I think it is only people like us who really focus on the alliance, who are really committed to the alliance, and as I'm committed to the alliance because of America First. I believe in America First, but I believe in America First and allies always. And President Trump wants to win, and I want him to win, but he can't win without our allies. And the best way to win is through our alliance. And you want to defeat China, you want to defeat North Korea, we need a strong ROC-US alliance.
Okay. This will be the last question. There was a report of newspaper that a bunch of Chinese spies has been captured in South Korea. Yeah. Have you heard about that news?
Yes, I heard that news, and that they were actually turned over to U.S. Forces Korea. That was one of the rumors. And I can tell you that is not true. That did not happen. But this is why I believe that there are malign activities being conducted by China and North Korea. I assess this in this way. That is likely disinformation that was planted by China through the conservative side in Korea. Okay? Yes. The conservatives were victim of Chinese disinformation. And the purpose of that is so that when someone like me hears this report that 99 Chinese spies were arrested and turned over to U.S. Forces Korea, I will say that is a conspiracy theory. That is a lie. Do not believe that. Okay? And I say that. However, what that does is that now anything dealing with China, we can say that's a conspiracy theory. It's not true, because they created such a far-fetched event that couldn't possibly be true. Now you can associate everything with China as not being true. And so they've created this disinformation really to protect their action. Now, I will counter that and say, recall the reports of Chinese citizens being at protests. And the Chinese deny it. Yet, the Chinese embassy had to put a notice to the Chinese people not to go to the protests. What does that tell you? That means they were going to the protests, and so that is an admission that Chinese people were participating in those protests. So this disinformation, the information environment is very complex, and it is not black and white. And especially China is very sophisticated, and the conservatives, I think, were victims of disinformation, because the conservatives really put this out that it was these Chinese spies were there because they want to expose the Chinese spies. They want to do that, but that story was not true. And now that story provides cover for China for its other lesser activities. You know, and so that's why what China is doing is so dangerous.
Oh, I see. Wow. Okay. Many Koreans may be disappointed about that.
Why so?
Because of the news made many people get realized what has happened in South Korean election system. Most of Korean people does not realize that election fraud was very traditional way, but not that kind of Huawei or something.
Yeah.
But after that news, they realized that a Chinese government can control our election system. That was kind of a boom for the South Korean conservatives.
Call.
Yes.
Yes. Well, that's right. Because, you know, and you have to ask why. I mean, there's two things to ask about this. One is, why did South Korea allow their election infrastructure to be built by China, Huawei? That's number one. That's a vulnerability. And number two is the South Korea refused to pass an espionage law that would encompass espionage from all foreigners. The espionage law is only about North Korea. Now, why would the opposition party prevent the passage of a law that would make it illegal for any foreigner to conduct espionage in South Korea? That is to protect your country. You need to have espionage laws. Yes, North Korea is the main enemy, but China's conducting espionage as well. And to deny that law, prevent that law from being passed, this all goes back to President Yoon's decision for martial law.
Yes.
Because he, that is, I think, part of his rationale for declaring martial law, to try to protect democracy, because the opposition party seems to be allowing China free reign in South Korea. And now I think this is being exposed in all of this. And I think the Korean people in the South are waking up and seeing the threats, not only from North Korea, but from China as well.
Thank you so much for your time. And would you leave some comments for the South Korean people? Not only in South Korea, but also in United States as well.
Yeah, so, for Koreans in the South, defend your democracy, protect your democracy. I look at our connections, all Koreans and Americans. Our Declaration of Independence in 1776, really established universal human rights. And the Patriots on March 1st, 1919 in South Korea wrote the Korean Declaration of Independence, which is a brilliant document and really was influenced by the American Declaration. Right. But that declaration, even though Korea did not, was not able to achieve its liberation at that time, it influenced Mahatma Gandhi in India, which allowed him to gain independence and freedom for India.
Yes.
And his principles influenced Martin Luther King in the United States in the Civil Rights Movement. And so when you look at that full circle, now we come to the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and Article 21 says it's a human right to have self-determination of government. And now is time to work towards that human right for the Korean people in the North, to determine that they want to have a free and unified Korea. Because the only way we're going to end the nuclear threat and the human rights abuses and crimes against humanity is the establishment of a free and unified Korea that is secure, stable, economically vibrant, unified under a liberal constitutional form of government based on individual rights, individual liberty, freedom, human rights, free market economic principles, the rule of law, determined by the Korean people, all the Korean people. That is, a free and unified Korea, or a united Republic of Korea, UROK, or UROK. Now, to the South Korean diaspora and the North Korean diaspora, all Koreans who are outside of Korea, it is important that you use your voices, your political voices, to influence the politics in the countries in which you live in, to support Korea. And that you tell the stories of Korea, of Korean history, but also of what is happening now. Yes, Korea is in the news, but Americans see a lot of news. And so the Korean diaspora here in the United States, work with your churches, with your political organizations, with, in businesses, your community groups. Help educate other Americans about the importance of what is happening in Korea, because those Americans and Koreans who focus on the alliance know that the United States will win if there is a strong ROK-US alliance. And together we can do that. America first, allies always.
Okay. Thank you very much. 여러분 잘 들으셨죠? 오늘의 결론인 것 같습니다. America first, alliance always. 이게 지금 이제 한미 동맹이 미국 우선, 그 다음에 한미 동맹, 그 다음에 항상 자리를 차지해야 된다. 이게 저희가 기억해야 될 부분이고, 한국에 계신 그리고 미국에 계신 많은 동포 여러분들이 한국과 미국 간의 이 관계에 대해서 깊이 이 관계를 끝까지 지켜나가야 한다라는 그 믿음을 좀 많이 퍼뜨려 주시면 감사하겠다. 거기엔 뭐 자유민주주의의 기본 정신이 당연히 들어가 있는 것이겠죠. 오늘 끝까지 함께 해주신 여러분 감사합니다. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.